Hey, what's happening? Kevin Yates here, Yates Performance Training. So today I just wanted to share 3 ways to use neurotraining to help decrease pain. A lot of times when we have nagging chronic pain, shoulder issues, bursitis, tendonitis, low back pain, knee problems, that either come and go or it's always just kind of there and you have to avoid doing certain movements and exercises or whatnot, or you've tried doing certain exercises, you've tried strengthening exercises, you've tried like rehab exercises, you've tried stretching, you've tried ice, heat, maybe pain medications, maybe you've seen your doctor, gotten x-rays, and they can't find anything that's wrong with you. So, a lot of times it could be self-defeating, I guess, and feel like that pain is something that just kind of happens as we get older and that we have to learn to live with it, because there's nothing that we can really do about it. And so today, I want to help share at least, just a few different ways that you can use neurotraining to help decrease pain, because, the one thing that these conventional methods fail to do is to work directly with the areas of the brain and the nervous system that drive pain. And that's one of the things, I have a saying that pain is something we feel in the body, but it's driven by the brain. So if we're not working with the area of the brain or the areas that are driving that pain, a lot of times we can do all the exercises and stretches that we want and it doesn't really do a lot. Or it might make it better for a little while, but the pain keeps coming back. So over time, we never really get any better. It's like, maybe we take a step forward, but then the pain comes and we take another step back. And we're always stuck in that same on again, off again pain cycle. So one of the ways we can use neurotraining to help decrease pain is by working with the areas of the brain that improve mobility. So now I'm not talking about stretching. I know when we think about improving flexibility, mobility, we often think about stretching. Well, one of the important things that I've learned is that like when we have things like muscle tightness, we got tight muscles, stiff low back, shoulders and things like that that bother us and they're stiff. Sometimes they're just sore all the time, or we have like joint restrictions where we might think it's just an issue with the joint. But those things a lot of times are just actually driven by the brain and the nervous system. And the reason why it happens is because anytime that the brain feels some kind of threat. So for example, if we do a movement where like I've had clients who had, just worked out in the yard, just like shoveling dirt with a light shovel and just had horrible back pain after. They didn't really think that they did anything. They couldn't remember like doing any movement that day. They didn't lift anything heavy and feel, oh my God, all of a sudden their back went. It's just like this pain comes on and they don't know, they can't identify what really caused it. And so then what happens is that after that, they go to do that same movement again, and then the pain just comes right back again. So they think that that movement is now bad for them or something they have to avoid doing. And what happens is that because there was pain at one point, then anytime that they go to do that same movement, the brain goes up. That movement last time caused pain, so I don't want to do that movement again. So we get pain as a way to keep us from doing that movement, even if that movement isn't really necessarily quote unquote bad for us. It's all a brain response when the brain perceives some kind of threat. So again, sometimes certain movements can be perceived as threatening by the brain and we get pain. So one of the things that we can do to improve mobility is use sensory integration type drills. So one of the my favorite ones is doing like something that we call infinity walks, where we're basically doing like a figure 8 type walk, keeping our eyes fixed on a target. So what that does is it integrates a lot of different sensory systems in the brain that can help unlock movement. It can help decrease muscle stiffness and improve joint mobility without pain. So that's one of the techniques that we can use in neurotraining. Another neurotraining drill that we can use, or technique that we can use, is something that I call from going from far to close, where, a lot of times when we're doing, especially like with like rehabilitation type work, If you have knee pain, then you'll do knee strengthening exercises. If you have shoulder pain, they'll work on the shoulder. But sometimes, if that area is really sensitive to pain and the brain doesn't want that area to move, or it doesn't feel safe moving that area, those exercises we do either have little to no benefit or they make pain worse. And especially like if you've ever done some kind of exercise and it made your pain worse, or you've done stretching and it either didn't do anything or maybe that made things worse, it's stuff like that that can happen. So anytime that we have something like that, we don't necessarily need to work on the area that's in pain. We can still work on decreasing pain in a certain area by working in an area that's farther away. So that allows us to basically do some work that we need to do without having a negative effect or triggering that pain response. So one of the examples that we have are things like using opposing joints, because the nervous system and the joint system in the body, and even the muscular system, it's all connected. Nothing really is isolated. Yes, we have different joints and different muscles and all of that, but they're all interlinked and interconnected in the body. And basically what that means is that, for example, if I had shoulder pain in my left shoulder and it's too painful to stretch it and move it and exercise it, one of the things I could do is I could work on my opposite hip. So my right hip, I can do some work with that hip. And that, because of the link in the nervous system and the joint and the muscular system, there's a crossover effect where it can actually help decrease pain and improve movement in my left shoulder. So opposing joints, it's definitely a great neurotraining tool and technique to use that can help decrease pain. And then one of the other ones, and this is one that we're often not told about, especially when it comes to dealing with chronic pain. Everything is about stretching and exercising and pain medications and avoiding movements and activities that cause pain, like just avoiding pain. But the one thing that we're not told is that sometimes pain is triggered by too much stimulus going on. There's just like an overwhelming amount of stimulus that comes in, and our brain just can't deal with it. So it's like overstimulated. And so what happens like with that, sometimes we have to kind of turn the dial down a little bit. So one of the neurotraining techniques that we can use, some of them actually are things like, these guys, blue light blocking glasses. So we can put these on, and that helps to kind of decrease some of the input and overwhelm and the stimulation, the overstimulation that comes in sometimes. That's one of the great things to use. Another thing we can use, like dark sunglasses, we can use those too. Sometimes those can help. Or sometimes we can do certain like resetting type drills for like our visual system. So eye palming and eye cupping type techniques, those can help as well. So, any of these things, and there's others as well, but I go on and on with them, it'd take forever. But hopefully that just gives you enough of an idea, with the point being that sometimes, pain is driven by just too much stimulus. An example of this is if you've ever noticed that during times of increased stress, that you tend to feel more pain in your body during those times. When you're very highly stressed, you have too much going on, and all of a sudden you just notice like your pain flares up during those times. That's a lot of times an indicator of too much stimulus going on, and that we need to inhibit certain areas of the brain in order to turn that dial down a little bit and help decrease pain. So recapping the 3 neurotraining tools and techniques you can use to help decrease pain. One is mobility type exercises using sensory integration. So I talked about like infinity walks that can help with that. The other is like far to close, so where we can work on areas farther away, like using opposing joints on the opposite side of the body that link to the area that's in pain if we're not able to work on that area, and then decreasing the stimulus. is another one. So hopefully that helps kind of shed some light on why you might have pain that never really seems to get better, and gives you some neuro training techniques and tools that you can use to help decrease pain. So hopefully that helps, and try these out for yourself and